Hey rowers, today we are going to do a heart zones set point test. So we are going to figure out where your first and second thresholds are. Check out the blog on the Suspend Rowing website to find out more information about how to set your heart zones from that. But we are going to be doing two different tests today to find those first and second thresholds, and using those you should be able to dial in reasonably well the numbers for those. The first test that we're going to do is that we are going to spend 2 minutes at each heart rate. So we're going to start out super low, spend 2 minutes rowing, and try and maintain that heart rate. Then at the end of 2 minutes, get a sense of where we are. I'll say some words, see what resonates best with you, and then we'll bring our heart rate up 10 beats and repeat the same thing. And eventually you will find where your first threshold is and then your second threshold. Then once we finish that, we're going to shift over to doing a talk test where we'll do the same thing, but we're going to narrow down those zones. So we're only bringing the heart rate up 5 beats each time. And at the end of each of those 5 beat segments, say a phrase and see how we feel saying that phrase. So if you haven't done so already, take 5 or 10 minutes to warm up, pause the video, just do some light rowing, make sure the blood's moving. I just finished a workout a few minutes ago, so I'm feeling pretty good. Once you are ready to go, strap onto the rower. You don't need to worry about setting up the clock. I've got mine set up and it will show on the screen. And let's go. So, 2 minutes at a time. Our first 2 minutes, try and get your heart rate to something very low, very easy. Mine, I'm going to aim for about 120 beats per minute is my target, which means that I'll be rowing really lightly. For me, that is just like, I get up there just walking. So, rowing along. You can see my heart rate behind me. It's coming up over 100. I have 2 minutes to get to this 120 that I'm aiming for. And so while you're rowing, while you're getting to this rate, think about how it feels. The first sort of segment that you should be at should be really easy. Oh, my heart rate is already over 120. I'm going to back off. So it should be really easy. You should be able to talk, no problem. You don't have to pause for breaths. You can sort of talk to yourself while you're watching this, see how that feels. You can whistle. Easy, you know. That's just how it goes. So ask yourself, is the whistling easy? Is talking easy? Do you feel like you're putting in a lot of effort? I'm having to back so far off to try and get my heart rate to go down. Down to 120. Got 40 more seconds at this heart rate. But yeah, sing a song. Oh, what a happy day, happy day. Yeah, so it's easy. You shouldn't feel like you're struggling at all here. Oh, backed off too far. Now I'm down under 120. It's really hard for me to keep this low of a heart rate. Okay. In 5 seconds, we're going to let ourselves bring that heart rate up a little more. Okay. Here we go. Bring your heart rate up 10 beats. So give a little more pressure on the drive. Here we are. And I'm already at 130. So, at this next heart rate, if you're sticking with me, 130. If you started somewhere different, 10 beats higher than where you started, ask yourself again, are you still talking easily? No problem, no change really. Still able to whistle. Pretty easy. I feel myself breathing a little heavier, but not bad. Not like I'd have to actually limit how much I talk. It's just like a deep breath between the end of statements. So, no problem. But, on the other hand, maybe you are starting to hit that first threshold. So, if you do feel like you're pushing a little harder, you're having to take a couple breaths, maybe a breath in the middle of sentences. Maybe if you tried to sing, look down, don't look 'em in the eye. You get out of breath. Then that is closing in on your first threshold. So, analyze yourself. Does that sound like what's happening, or are you still easy peasy, no problem? Keep on holding this 130. Is it starting to feel a little harder, or are you still going so easy? Now we're coming up on the next shift up. In 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Let's try and hit 140 beats per minute. Oop, I just burped a little, which takes my heart rate way down. It'll pop back up though. Okay. So as you approach 140, for me, this is around my first threshold. So I'm going to be start taking a couple pauses between talking points so I can get an extra breath here and there. Oop, passed it by, I'm 145. But yeah. Is there a gentle shift in that breathing? Are you having to pause while talking? If you tried to whistle, you know, it gets a little harder. If you try and sing a song, something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules. It gets a little harder. So, those are the signs that you're coming in on that first threshold. So if you have hit that point, then mark down your first threshold. If it's still easy, then great. If you're still singing and whistling and talking nonstop, no problem. You still have to go higher to get to your first threshold. Alternatively, it may be getting harder. It may be you may have passed by your first threshold and you're approaching your second threshold. So your second threshold is where you really don't want to talk. You say a couple words, you're like, oh, okay, breathe, a couple words, breathe. Okay, shift up 10 more beats. 150 beats per minute. That's the target for these next 2 minutes. Or rather, you have 2 minutes to get to that 150. And here I am, 148, 149, 150. Here we are. So, at 150, are you talking continuously still? Do you have that breath between sentences? Is whistling something you want to do? Or are you approaching your second threshold? Are you saying just a couple words and then breathing? Is the idea of having an extended conversation really unpleasant? That is the sign that you're coming into that second threshold. Another sign of the second threshold is that all of a sudden, like going from 130 to 140, 140 to 150 was really easy, just a few strokes. But when you start approaching that second threshold, all of a sudden your heart rate slows down. It's resisting getting to that threshold. So that's another sign that you're approaching it. Got 30 seconds more. Keep on talking to yourself. Keep on evaluating where you're at. Okay. And we're gonna shift up our power. Bring the heart rate up 10 more beats in 2, 1, right here. Let's try and hit 160. And if you've already hit your second threshold, if you feel like you don't want to talk, you can take a break. You don't have to keep on rowing. So I'm at 155, 156, 7, 8, 159, 160. Here we go. Okay. Back off the power a little so I don't overshoot it too far. So, keep on talking. How's it feeling? You had a conversation with someone, told them about your day. Oh, well, you know, I've been working out. I taught a class. The air quality is not awesome because there's fires going on in California, but I'm making it through okay. How often do you have to stop? Can you get through entire sentences? Or is it multiple times per sentence that you're stopping to breathe? If someone asks you, how are you feeling? Would you want to just say fine? Or would you be okay with explaining everything about how you're feeling? I personally have not quite hit that second threshold, but it's getting close. I know for myself that second threshold comes around 170 or so. Okay, got 15 seconds until we shift up again. And in 3, 2, 1, here we are. So try and find 170 if you're still with us. If you're still trying to find that second threshold. I assume most people by now have hit their first threshold, but maybe not. Maybe there's still a couple high heart rate folks who are still getting to that first threshold. So you can see how my own heart rate has kind of stalled out here, 165. I'm working pretty hard, trying to get it to go up, and it's a challenge. 168. 169. 170. Here we are. Okay. So, I'm not a fan of talking right now. It's tough. 2 to 3 words is kind of where I like to give my limit. Can't think very clearly either. So my sentences are a little gibberish. But that is the sign that I am hitting that second threshold, right where I thought. "30 seconds to go." Evaluate yourself. Sit up. Get ready to shift up again if you're still looking for that last second threshold. Three, 2, 1. I'm slowing down because I have definitely hit my second threshold. Whew, okay. But if you are still going, if you're still finding that place where talking is hard, then do it. Keep on rowing hard. Keep on holding that 10 beats higher. 180 is your target right here, or where you're trying to get to. Talk to yourself. If you have someone nearby, talk to them. See how full of sentences are comfortable, or are you trying to just limit what you're saying? How's your brain functioning? Can you think clearly about what you're trying to say? And also, once you get to that point and you kind of back off the power a little bit, how long do you feel like you could hold this? Could you hold it for an hour? Could you hold it for 30 minutes? Depending on how fit you are, you should be able to sort of hover around that second threshold for something like 20 up to 40 minutes. Like if you really had to. It wouldn't be pleasant, but you could. Okay, you've got 30 more seconds to get up there, to determine how it feels to stay at this 180. I'm going to keep this test going up to 200 beats per minute. I think most people will have found their second threshold by 200. There's the occasional person who will be above that, but it's rare. It's very rare. So it means we got another 4 minutes of testing after this. Here we go in 2, 1. If you're still trying to find that second threshold, drive up the power. See if you can get yourself up to 190 beats per minute. You've heard everything I have to say about what you're trying to feel like to feel that second threshold. For everyone else, if you've already hit your second threshold, you've hit your first, you've hit your second, make a note of what point you were at when you hit those. If you can remember them in your head, great, but writing it down is much more useful. I know that I forget things. Everyone does. You're human. So again, for you intrepid few who are still going, 190 beats per minute is the target right now. You've got a minute to go, just over. 1, 2, 1, there we go. 1 minute more at 190. Everyone else, grab water, stretch out. You should be plenty warmed up for this next test to sort of fine-tune our heart zones, or our threshold levels, rather. Okay, 30 seconds more at this heart rate. So in terms of how high your heart rate can go, this second threshold is not your max. It's far from your max. You have plenty of space to go above the second threshold, so you shouldn't be trying to max yourself out on this test. You're just finding the point at which it becomes really difficult to talk. Okay, last shift. If you are one of those medical miracles that are still trying to find their second threshold, bring it up to 200. Give it some more power. Maintain that power, maintain that speed. Push a little more to try and drive that heart rate up. So like I was saying, we're not trying to find our max, we're trying to find the second threshold. For myself, personally, the maximum heart rate mine is in the upper 180s, 188, 190, something like that. But my second threshold is around 170. So I've got 20 beats per minute of room above the second threshold. So you can work, so that's just me. Everyone is different, but keep that in mind as you're trying to find these thresholds. Okay, anyone who is still going, you have a minute more, a minute and 5 seconds. I'm gonna stop the clock after this minute. If you somehow still don't feel like you've hit your second threshold, then you can just keep on going until you find it. But I think that 200 beats per minute should cover about 99.8% of people. So keep on talking, keep on asking yourself, are you able to string more than 3 or 4 words together in a row without having to take a breath? And we've got about 15 seconds more to reach that final 200 beats per minute phase. And 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, for most of us, we're calling it quits. I'm going to hit the menu button on my own monitor. So, this next one, let me bring it back so you can see me. Okay, this next one, we are narrowing down our zones or our thresholds. So, we just found within about 5 to 10 beats where our threshold is. Now, we're going to do the same thing 2 minutes at a time, but we're only going to raise our heart rate by 5 beats each time that we do those 2 minutes. And this time, instead of me just sort of talking through what you should be feeling, we're doing something called a talk test. So, as we come into the close of each of these 2-minute segments, you're going to say a phrase. The phrase should be about 25 to 50 words, something in that range. So long enough that you're talking for a little bit, but not so long that it takes the full 2 minutes. A really good length one is actually the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, blah, 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 all that. Instead, I found this one.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
Yeah, I feel way more hardcore saying that. So, that's what I'm going to stick with. You can say whatever you want. But the point is, at the end of each of these 2 minutes, you find a phrase that you can repeat over and over again and evaluate how you feel saying it. So we're going to start out around that first threshold. So take that first threshold number that you had, drop 10 beats per minute from it. So I found my first threshold around 140. I'm going to start out at 130, and then we're going to do 2 minutes at that, plus 5 beats, 2 minutes there, plus 5 beats, 2 minutes there, plus 5 beats, 2 minutes there. So that gives us, actually, you know what? Take that first threshold and drop 5 beats off of it. I think that'll probably be better. Yeah. Okay, so only 3 of them. So your first threshold minus 5 beats, so I'll start at 135. So 135, 140, 145. That's what I'm going to do. You take 5 beats on either end of wherever your first threshold was. And doing that will narrow in whether your first threshold is actually 5 beats lower than where you said it was, or 5 beats higher or right on. So you'll be able to get it a little more close. Then we'll do the same thing for that second threshold. 5 beats lower than what you said it was, up to 5 beats higher. So altogether we have 6 more 2-minute pieces to do, and then you should have a pretty good sense of where your thresholds lie. So let's get this back on. So I'm going to select workout, new workout, intervals, time, set it up for 2 minutes with no rest. And let's strap in and get ready. So I'm going to 135. You go to 5 beats under your first threshold, or what you thought was your first threshold. So ready, rope. So I'm giving it some good push to get my heart rate up. Here we are, 132, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I need to back off to let my heart rate drop down. I came off the bat a little hard. So remember, this first threshold, once we have our little phrase that we're saying, the goal is to, or when you feel like you're at your first threshold, you should be feeling like you have to take an extra breath during a sentence. Oh man, my heart rate doesn't want to go down. Take some deep breaths. That's probably because I'm talking while I go. Hopefully you are not doing so. Here we go. So if you're in that situation where your heart rate won't go down, take some deep breaths, calm down, relax. You'll be able to get there. Okay. This should feel really easy. Your first threshold is easy, and you are 5 beats below where you thought your first threshold was. So this should not feel difficult. Nice light rowing. Okay, while you continue for the last 15 seconds or so, I'm gonna pull up the speech. Okay, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the Armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, royal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. That felt great. I have no problem saying that. Okay, so let's get back on it. Try and find exactly where you thought your first threshold was when we did that first test. So 5 beats higher than you just had it. I stopped for a minute to pull up that text, so my heart rate went down. Bring it back up towards 140 for me. And here we are. I am right on. I'm gonna try and hold this 140, not let it drift up too high. Oh, 145, such is my life. Come on, drop down to 140. Let's go. I want to get to 140 and then be able to hold that for a bit because right now I'm going really light. Okay, here we go. 140. I can raise up my power a little bit to maintain this heart rate. Okay, we've got about 10 seconds, so I'm just going to pull up that text again. My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the Armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the future Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. That felt pretty good, but then again I was stopped while I was saying it, so my heart rate has gone down significantly. When I first started, there were a couple hitches. So I'm going to take my heart rate up to 145. Give it some extra power here. Whoop, you guys still have the text. There we are, so you can actually see how much time. One 141, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Holding on to this for a bit. Okay, my heart rate's a little on the high end. 149 right now. Try and back off in these last few seconds. 147, 6, good, 5. Okay. So, let's say a speech again. My name is Marcus Aurelius Maximus, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius something, commander of the Felix Legion, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, I can't remember this, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. Couple breaths. Doable, but not really fun. And that is the sign that it's the first threshold. It's the, I can say it, but not really enjoyable. So, I would call my first threshold closer to 145 than 140. If you feel like you still haven't hit that first threshold, then use this time, bring it up another 5 beats. Try and find that place where you finish what you're saying and you go, I could say that, but it was a little not great. It wasn't fun. I was getting through the sentences, but kind of like, didn't feel awesome. Okay, so I'm going to let this timer run down. You can see on the screen, there we go, down there. Dropping down 47, 46, 45. So once we get down, we are going to bring up the power again and try and hit 5 beats below where you thought your second threshold was. So for myself, that means 165 is going to be my target for these next 2 minutes. Man, I really should have written that speech like on something that I can see right in front of me. That's what I should have done. I didn't though. So I'm gonna flounder through it again, see how it goes. And we got about 10 seconds. You can start rowing. Build up that heart rate. My goal is 165, so I'm gonna row really hard. I'm all the way down 120 right now. You have 2 minutes to find that 165 for me. 5 beats below where you thought your second threshold was. There we are. I am closing in. 163, 4, and 5. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to this. We've got a little over a minute to go. Definitely talking a little less comfortably, I can tell that. Okay, I need to back off. I want to actually start below my threshold. Okay, so about 15 seconds while maintaining this heart rate, give your speech. My name is Marcus Aurelius Maximus, commander of the Felix Legion, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, true servant to the Emperor Marcus Aurelius something, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. Yeah, couple hitches, but I felt like overall that was more memory than anything else. Not terrible. So, I'm gonna drive up that power to 170. $167, $68, 69, backing off, 170. I want to try and hold this heart rate. Okay, coming up on that next phrase. My name is Marcus Aurelius Maximus, General of the Armies of the North, Commander of the Felix Legions, true servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. That was pretty close. Breath between every few words. I'd call that just about my second threshold. Feel like I was a little comfortable for the second threshold, but not far off. So, let's bring it up 5 more beats. See if I can hit 175. No, 173, 174. And 175. I want to hold this heart rate. I've gone a little high, 176, 177. Backing off here. Okay, last time for me. My name is Marcus Aurelius Maximus, General of the Legions of the North, Commander of the Felix Legion, servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. Oh yeah, I'm at that second threshold for sure. So, I would call my true second threshold number somewhere between 170 and 175, say like 172 or so. If you feel like you still are not hitting that second threshold and you're still speaking in full sentences reasonably easily, bring that rate up 5 more beats and try again. Otherwise, hopefully, you have a good sense of within 5 beats or so where your first and your second thresholds lie. I'm still breathing hard. My heart rate's still 150. Okay, that is it. Have a good one.